Is this the death of Chase? Good while it lasted. That's trash. Very disappointing. These are just some of the comments that were placed on Wednesday morning when I shared the news that Chase is making some big changes to its cashback rates from the start of April. So I'm going to take you through exactly what has been announced so you know what you can do about it and whether it's time to move on and stop using it. So first of all, let's talk about Chase as a debit card. Why it's been one of my top picks, if not the top pick for spending for the majority of time since it launched in September of 2021. So we're looking at, a good length of time where it's been very, very hard to beat the 1% cashback rate on the debit card. Now, 1% doesn't sound like much, does it? But when you compare it to most payment cards, debit or credit cards, when you spend with them, you get nothing back. So 1% is decent and it really adds up over the year. So Chase has made changes over the time since it existed, but Chase, if you were to spend the most you could on it to earn cash back, it's capped at £15 every single month. You could potentially get 180 quid back every year. And all you're doing is spending as normal. You're just using that Chase debit card instead of a different one. Now, yes, there are other cashback and reward cards out there, credit and debit cards, which might be offering something close, if not the same as that on some of your spending. But this was absolutely, I think, the best one out there. Easy to use and easy to trigger. You have to put in £1,500 into the account the month before you want to earn the cash back, but that money didn't need to stay there. But if you were going to spend anyway, you'd probably put that cash in and use it. And if you couldn't spend a full £1,500 or transfer a full £1,500 in, you could put a lower amount in, just make sure, take it back out, put it back in to trigger it, but then that's fine. So overall, it's been a great one. So what are the changes then? These start on the 7th of April 2025. So they've given us a month's notice for this. And this first one, I say, is probably the most disappointing because there isn't really a significant alternative that gives something along the same lines. And this is the fact that you'll no longer be able to earn cash back abroad. So you can still use the card fee-free overseas. So it's still a decent option for any sort of spending and cash withdrawals over there, but you won't earn cash back anymore. That is a real shame. Okay, yeah, you might not get a huge amount if you don't go away a lot. But if you do go away frequently, that again can add up combined with a fee-free status. Really means now it's no longer our top pick, absolutely, for spending overseas. It's not a bad pick, but it's not our top pick. I'll come back at the end to some of the alternatives here. So that's the first one. The second one is the spending at home and the changes here. So you will still earn 1% on your spending. That is still capped at £15 a month, so on the £1,500 of spending. And you still have to transfer in that £1,500 into the account the month before you want to earn cash back. Those things haven't changed. However, you will not earn it on all spending. Now, yes, okay, there were exclusions before that, but they were on things like gambling or paying off credit cards or car finance. Kind of traditional things where cashback is excluded, but you would get it on pretty much any other spending you'd get in any kind of merchant, particularly because as a MasterCard, everywhere would accept it. You will now only earn that cashback on 3 categories: groceries, everyday transport, and fuel. So let's have a look a bit more detail about what those different categories mean. I've taken this from Chase's website. Again, they've only just announced this, so potentially as we get nearer to the time, there might be a little bit more information, but they give sort of general, broad kind of guidance on which merchants are included and which ones aren't. So 1% on groceries. Now, the major supermarkets, they're all included. That's fine. So Tesco, Waitrose, Asda, the major supermarkets, right? They will still earn you that 1% back. If you order by a third-party delivery app, so Deliveroo, Uber Eats, something like that, then it will not count. You will not get the cash back. Okay, it's only directly from the supermarkets. It will also work in smaller convenience stores, and it explicitly lists Spar, Costcutter and Londis here. And it talks about alcohol shops being excluded though. So Majestic Wine, for example. That's on groceries. On transport, again, they use the word everyday transport to actually give you a clue where that's going. What counts as everyday? So UK trains, absolutely. They're all in there, getting them directly from the train operator, and it also explicitly mentions apps like Trainline as well. So you should be, hopefully on the whole, and I'll come back to a caveat a bit later on this, be okay when you're booking your UK trains. Also mentions Eurostar. So although you can't use this overseas, if you're booking your train abroad using Eurostar website, then you're going to be fine. Moving on to other types of transport that are included: buses and coaches. Charter and tour buses, they say, are included within this as well. It also talks about ferry trips will earn you the money back. And then it talks about things like the tube, TfL, other kind of metro systems, trams. Again, all of those, you'll be able to earn the cash back. Now, it says you won't be covered with taxis. And so there's a caveat around those sort of train bookings. You might remember me talking about using the Uber app for booking your train tickets. You can also use it for flights and things as well. I would imagine that won't be covered because all it will know is that you're booking via Uber. And I imagine they would class that as a taxi firm, taxi book purchase rather than a train purchase. So again, you probably will lose out there. And also, flights do not count. And because it is only about UK spending, you'll also miss out on anything spending on travel, whether it's buses or trains or whatever it might be overseas. And the last one is petrol, that 1% of petrol. It talks about service stations. So big brands such as BP through to those supermarket forecourts, they will earn you cash back. It also talks about electric charging points. They're also covered, although it explicitly says not if you're charging your car at home. Although, of course, again, how would you do that? Because it comes out of your electricity bills anyway. Now, that's what they've said. Now, of course, there are some explicit ones there mentioned, particular supermarkets, petrol stations, train lines, whatever it might be. But there could be ways where you think you're meeting that criteria and you're spending on groceries, on every day transport, on petrol, but it doesn't earn the cash back. And that's because of something called the MCC. Now, this stands for Merchant Category Code. Now, this is something which does sometimes pop up when we talk about different cashback deals. And this is where every merchant has this MCC, and that kind of says, this is what we do, this is what we are selling, the kind of business we are. And that will sometimes, for some merchants, not necessarily relate to your purchase. We talked there about Uber. I imagine, don't know for certain, but I imagine Uber's MCC will not be covered by this, even if you're booking a train ticket, because they won't know. And also you might find this in smaller businesses. You might be buying your groceries, but their main thing is something completely different. So you've got to watch out for that. You can't really predict this unless you're somehow able to get the MCC and know how that's categorized. I think it's a lot of effort for our everyday spending. If you are rejected, you won't be able to get that cash back. Also worth noting here, if you're using your Chase card via a third party, that also will change the MCC. So your likes of Apple Pay and Google Pay, they're fine. But if you were to use something like Curve, then that would have a different MCC and it wouldn't know what you're doing. PayPal is another example there. Okay, so that is the kind of main things of what you will be earning from the 7th of April 2025. Right, so what does this mean? Should you be ditching Chase? Are there alternatives you should be using instead? Well, sad to say it, but yes, remember we've already had massive cuts to Chase in terms of the saving rates it's offered. You can get better money, better rates for your money elsewhere. Be clever with your cash.com/savings is the place to go to find those top paying accounts. So we've already had that disappointment and now we've got this. And although 1% back on groceries, petrol and travel is decent, that hasn't changed. Well, what about the rest of your spending? There are better options, I think. So yeah, maybe Chase is one to keep open. It's certainly still a decent bank account in terms of its ease of use, but I wouldn't be using it for my spending anymore unless I really needed to. Perhaps other allowances have been used up on other cards, which means I'm not earning the rate that I need to. So let's start first of all with spending overseas. It is no longer our top pick for spending abroad because there are many more cards now, many debit cards that will do this for you. Fee-free spending and free cash withdrawals. And if you've already got that current account with a different bank and you're using that on a day-to-day basis, then it makes more sense to use that, whether that's Starling or First Direct. Club Lloyds is about to do that from the middle of April. So there are a number of different places you can do this if you don't already have Chase. Now, by all means, if you've got Chase, you can still use it overseas, and that is great. You just won't be earning the cash back. However, I'm going to move my overseas spending back to what I used to use before Chase came along, and that's the Barclaycard Rewards credit card. Now, this offers cash back at a much lower rate, 0.25%, but it's better than nothing, right? And we all know when we're abroad, we can all easily rack up our spending. Unless we're on like an all-inclusive or prepaid for everything before we left, that is still money that will add up. And remember, that is fee-free for spending as well. So that's on overseas spending, the change there. I will do an updated in a couple of weeks, probably as we get closer to the Easter holidays, I'll do an update on the best cards, all those different options for you. One caveat though, there is an advantage of Chase if you are going to America, because if you use a Chase ATM in the States, then you won't get charged the fee that some ATMs charge. So again, if you're going to the States, maybe it's worth taking that and using that to take money out. But otherwise, the other benefits, it's the same as everywhere else. Let's look at the other kind of spending, the cashback spending in the UK. Now, when it comes to grocery shopping, 1% still sounds good, right? It's no different to what you were getting before, so why not keep using it at the supermarket? Well, actually, there are ways to get more than this by using cashback apps like Cheddar, Hyperjar, Top Gift Cards, and Jam Donut. These allow you to buy gift cards for the supermarkets and get rates normally between 3 and 5%, sometimes higher if they're boosted. Sainsbury's, Tesco, Asda, Waitrose, Morrison's, all the big guys. You can buy these gift cards, get some money back. And what I love about that is sometimes you can even get to the till and buy the card there and it comes through instantly. So you're not ending up with gift cards with surplus amounts. Or you can say, oh, look, it's cost me £32. I'll buy a £32 gift card and it will cost a little bit less than that. And then you'll spend it there and then. And obviously, that's better than 1%, right? So that is certainly something to consider instead of Chase or any other card out there. But then for your everyday spending, I would suggest going for the American Express Nectar credit card. This gives you 2 Nectar points for every £1 that you spend. That works out at 1%. Yes, it is in Nectar points, but we can all spend money at Sainsbury's, I'm sure, or Argos at some point to use those up, right? So it's not wasted. You can use those points there. This one is free in the first year, but then it's 30 quid from year 2 onwards. So maybe after a year, you might want to look at another option. There are other free American Express cards out there. Again, I will do a much more in detail look at the best cashback and reward cards for 2025 following this at some point in the next month or so. But that would be my top pick for you right now. Again, there are other options out there. And obviously there is an issue with Amex that maybe some places won't accept it. But if they don't accept it, then use that Barclaycard Rewards that you've got for overseas spending as your backup. More information about the changes to Chase and those other cards over at becleverwithyourcash.com. My name's Andy Webb. Thank you so much for watching. Check out these videos here for more ways to make the most of your money.